2 weeks ago, I dabbled in the supernatural as I tried to turn my dwarves into vampires and werewolves. Both of my attempts did end up failing spectacularly, though I will probably return to the idea at some point. But with those failures under my belt, I wanted to move on to the more comfortable, predictable, and brainless side of the supernatural spectrum: zombies. Though I wasn't entirely certain what I wanted to do with them, and my plan had to pivot a couple times along the way as I came up with new ideas. My first zombie idea was to take a married couple, kill one of them, reanimate them as a zombie, and then see how their spouse reacted, which was an idea born out of the potential double meaning of the word necromantic. This plan required 3 chambers separated by fortifications, so that the viewer, target, and necromancer could see each other throughout the process. It also required spikes in the floors of the target and necromancer holding rooms to kill and scare respectively. The obvious problem with getting any zombie idea off the ground is that necromancers are hard to come by, so I had gone to the trouble of placing cage traps around the doors of the tavern so that we could lightly attack and chase any visiting necromancers right into our clutches. Fortunately, that ended up being unnecessary, and I didn't have to resort to attacking a stranger, because only a couple hours into waiting for migrants, we got our very own necromancer. I locked her away in her holding chamber, and then went looking for a married couple whose love I could test. Zugler and Fath seemed like typical married dwarves, and so I sent Zugler to the viewing room and Fath to the target room. I cycled the spikes on and off a few times to kill Fath, before stabbing Mincott the necromancer with the spikes once to hopefully scare her. This was the point where my first zombie idea came to its end, because not only was Mincott not scared by the spike, Zugler didn't even feel anything seeing her husband die. I didn't really feel like bringing Fath back to test their love after that. It was probably for the best he never found out. Moving on to my second zombie idea, I wanted to be able to convert a group of dwarves into zombies so that I could send a zombie army wherever I wanted, using tunnels and bridges and things. To get the holding rooms to a place where they could do that meant first knocking down the walls separating the viewer and target rooms and filling the newly expanded room with spikes to kill anything in there so that they could be converted by the necromancer. Once that was done, I moved on to catching an enemy in a cage trap and installing them into a little room off the side of the necromancer room, so that with the lowering of a bridge, the necromancer would see the enemy through the fortification, get scared, and raise the dead bodies in the new target room. Everything about this plan worked, though one of my test subjects did take a shocking amount of spikings to kill, but the core of the plan wasn't really appealing to me. I didn't want to kill my dwarves to make zombies, because zombies are worse than dwarves, and so that led me to my third and final zombie idea: recycling my soldiers. I would no longer need spikes in the target room, because we would be dealing with already dead targets, and so I had those removed. On top of that, I obviously couldn't recycle any of my soldiers if I didn't have any, so I spent the next few migrant waves filling out my squads with poorly trained recruits, so that when the next siege came, there would be an opportunity to bring some of them back. Eventually, that opportunity arose, as a vile force of darkness made up of dwarves briefly appeared, before disappearing and being replaced by some humans and elves who killed the thieves that the vile force had brought along for the ride. The humans and elves were easily dealt with by my more trained soldiers, but I did successfully lose 2 of my recruits. After the battle, I looked through all the battle debris and picked out any head, hand, or body that had a shot at coming back as a zombie, and rushed it down to the target room before it had a chance to decompose, because apparently necromancers can't work with full-on skeletons. Once it was all loaded up, I locked off the door, dropped the bridge to scare the necromancer, and watched as my own little zombie army got reanimated inside the target room. There were about 18 zombies in total, ranging from a single reanimated hand to a full-on gaunt zombie with enough intelligence to be considered a visitor. These zombies didn't really have anything to do until a siege arrived, and so they, and I, waited around until the summer when another vile force of darkness arrived. I locked off access to the fortress and unlocked access to the zombie holding cell, and watched as the 2 gaunt zombies came into contact with the sieging dwarves. At first, I thought that they might be able to take out a couple of dwarves each, but they just kept going as the dwarves died all around them. Once they had completed their business, one wandered off the edge of the map, and the other got itself trapped in a cage. My concept had worked. The gaunt zombies weren't exactly reanimated soldiers of mine, but they were once soldiers, and I had recycled them into a defense force capable of taking out a solid 15 attackers or so. The other zombies had only just found their way up to the hallway leading out to the world by the time the gaunt zombies had left, and they found themselves, having killed a dwarf, on the precipice of exploring something new, with sunlight and open air just a few meters away. And so instead of letting them do that, I lowered the bridge to the fortress and sent my squads to kill all the living zombies, so that we could load all of their bodies, plus all the bodies from the siege, into the target room and reanimate a bigger and even better recycled zombie army than before. There was a bit of an attitude issue with the new zombies, and one of them seemed to be stuck in a cycle of repeatedly dying and getting reanimated, but other than that, this batch was even more full of gaunt zombies. I was happy with this potential cycle of zombification, but Minkot the Necromancer seemed a little less pleased, as she stumbled obliviously around her chamber. Oh well. Thanks for watching, an extra thank you to those of you who support me on Patreon, and I'll see you next time.